What's up, YouTube? Hey, so we in the car today. A little bit different from how I normally shoot. I don't really like to shoot like this no more, but I felt like it needed to be done because I was watching some videos this morning talking about Navy Federal. And you guys know, as being known as the king of Navy Federal, I felt like I need to put my 2 cents in on this topic. So they're basically saying that Navy Federal denies black applicants at a larger rate than they deny than any other bank in, um, or sorry, the larger gap than any other bank in the United States. So basically, what they're saying is there's 74% of white applicants that are approved, and only 48% of black applicants are approved with Navy Federal, and that's the largest gap out of any bank in the United States, right? Now, I want y'all to understand this, right? Because they love to give y'all a headline, but they don't like to give y'all all the key facts and details. They don't like to give every little nuance. They don't like to break stuff down, and then they definitely don't like to give you a solution to the problem, all right? So, like I said, I watched a few different videos this morning, and so, just a specific shout out to what is it? All Things Real. Used to be the real estate trapper. Now it's All Things Real. But basically, what he was talking about was the solutions. But before I get into the solutions, I want to talk about how that data skewed. All right. So if you look at the statements that Navy Federal did respond with, they did say that they followed the Fair Lending Act guidelines and everything, as well as the fact that Navy Federal basically stated they were um, that they were happy to be the bank that approves the most black applicants out of the top 50 in the United States. And I think that's what's definitely being missed here, right? So a lot of the times, we like to sit back and we look at the headline. The headline looks so good, but they don't break it down to us all of the factors. They just tell you what they want you to know, right? It's like the presidential election. They're gonna tell you the bits and pieces they want you to know, give you the propaganda to make you turn on what's it called? Make you turn on someone, right? So when we look at Navy Federal, right? For one, you could go all over YouTube. You're gonna see all these videos with all these black influencers where we're talking about Navy Federal. We're giving you guys different tips and strategies that you can use with Navy Federal. The stuff that I'm giving you, honestly, the majority of that stuff was given to me by employees that work for Navy Federal. Hey, do this, do that, blah blah blah. So, with that being said, they're giving a lot of information to the black community, and giving you that financial information and awareness for you to better yourself and put yourself in a better predicament when it comes to credit and things like that. All right. Now, with that comes attacks when you do things for the black community. I'm not gonna say too much, but I'm just gonna say when you start helping out, certain certain groups of people don't like it, so they're gonna attack you. All right. So now moving further into that, where am I going with this? Right. So Navy Federal has given out a lot of information to the black community to get people to have the knowledge to be able to build their credit, to be able to even feel confident enough to apply for these loans and different things, right? Navy Federal has recently been hit with a large influx of black applicants. Why? Because there's a large community of blacks that have accounts with Navy Federal. All right, USAA could never have this pop up. Why? Because USAA for a long time didn't allow blacks to join. So all of those military families that had blacks in them from back in the days when blacks were not allowed to be officers, and they said, "Oh, officers, if you're not an officer, you can't join." What did that do? That excluded you, right? So we're talking about the bank that that brought you in and embraced you and gave you the knowledge to build your credit and gave you the credit lines. You know, we were seeing high approvals back to back. We're talking about them approving people for houses, but what about all the $25,000, $5,000, $10,000 credit cards that blacks were approved for? What about all these different auto loans and car loans and all these other things that blacks were approved for? And what about how many black members they have? Now, this is the information that they leave out of that report, right? So this is what I want y'all to understand before, you know, all the blacks just jump up and say, "Oh, we're canceling Navy Federal, whatever, whatever." And I'm not saying this to try and say that there's not an issue with this at all, but I want you all to understand this before you just look at one statistic that they gave you, because they went and found the one statistic to pick on. All right, and then they went and asked questions that they knew legally the bank couldn't answer. They asked about a specific person's financial information. Legally, the bank cannot disclose that information. They asked about the credit reports of the black applicants that applied. Legally, the bank cannot disclose that information. So then when they say, "Oh, well, the bank didn't respond to this," the bank legally cannot respond to the questions they were asked. So it's a setup to try and sway you a certain way. Understand this. The information that they went off, they said houses, black applicants for houses in similar neighborhoods with a similar debt to income ratio or similar income, right? What it didn't tell you is that didn't factor in relationship with Navy Federal, the length of time you've had an account with Navy Federal. That didn't factor in the type of employment that that person had. So if they were self-employed, if they, if they're a business owner, or if they're a W-2 or whatever, however, an investor, it didn't factor that in. It also didn't factor in their credit score. So let's say this. It also let me add too, it didn't factor in their outside other assets, right? So let's say this, right? You have a white applicant that has 500,000 in assets in Navy Federal, right? They have a job where they're making $250,000 a year, and they apply to get this home loan, right? And they, now they're applying for this loan. Then you have, on the other hand, a black applicant who doesn't, who hasn't had credit before. Say that white applicant's had 10 years credit history, right? Because I want y'all to understand how they slide and stuff in here, right? Black applicant, he makes $250,000 a year, but maybe he owns a trucking company, right? He's not a W-2 employee. So all that $250,000 a year that he makes doesn't go in his pocket. Maybe 40 of that is what actually goes in his pocket, right? And the other money's going to expenses and stuff for his business, right? Or maybe this is his first year making $250,000. Maybe last year he only made 40, or he lost last year, right? But they're not telling you about what's on these people's actual financial statements long term. They're telling you about what's on it now. So now their income has to be adjusted towards that, because every single bank, when they see your income, they're going to average it out. All right. So now they have to average out that income. So now that brings that applicant down. Let's say that person just cleaned their credit off and just applied to get credit within the last 6 months and got their credit score up, right? So now the person has a thin profile and it doesn't have any age, right? They're not telling you those factors. So now you're just looking at it and you say, "Oh, you have a black applicant, a white applicant, they make the same amount of money, but the black applicant's denied," right? Now the biggest factor that they left out, and that's what Navy Federal put in their response that everybody missed, it went over your head, right? Is when Navy Federal stated, "We also approve the most black applicants out of the top 50 banks." So understand this piece. The other banks might approve at a lower gap, but they don't approve the most still. So we're discriminating, right? So you proclaim we're discriminating. However, we still approve more than the other banks that you claim don't discriminate? Take that in. I want y'all to think about that, right? Now, how do we solve this problem? All right. How we solve this problem is, for one, we we have to educate ourselves financially, and know what we're doing before we apply for a mortgage, right? That's another factor that they didn't take into consideration. Is you can get pre-approved and everything, and then you can turn around and get denied because you don't submit documents. And I can tell you, I've done this before. When I was first looking at getting a house, I got the pre-approval, everything, going through everything with the loan officer, and then, when it comes down to certain documents, they're asking for W-2, stuff like that. I had a bunch of jobs. It got to the point where it was like, okay, I've been switching jobs, whatever. I got to go find 5, 6 W-2s. Forget this. I'll just apply next year, you know. Or like I said, somebody's new to credit and they don't really understand what's going on, and they apply for a loan, and they did it prematurely. They didn't have enough history. They didn't have a good enough relationship with the bank. There's so many other factors that are coming into this that are being left out. So, like I said, the first piece is educating ourselves, and we have to educate ourselves on the facts of what's going on with these banks. We also have to educate ourselves on, what banks to apply for. Do we need to go and find a private, lender, or do we need to find a loan officer or whatever? Then the other thing is, of course, you can always bank somewhere else. You can go and bank with an African American bank or African American credit union. They exist. If that's the extreme you want to go to, then go to that extreme. Um, I tell everybody I diversify. I have foreign bank accounts. I have what's it called? I have domestic bank accounts. Um, and I have a bank account and I have a credit union account. Like, I diversify for different reasons. So I expect everybody else to. Um, you know, and so those are the things that we have to do. We have to look into. We have to take the time to really learn before we just jump up in uproar. All right. So like I said, overall, my personal opinion on the situation is that yes, it's something that needs to be looked into, and then check those credit scores and things like that. But they could only do that internally, so we would never get a response to that, right? Um, but the other thing is, as a country, we have to be more progressive, and change these different practices. Because remember, the credit score initially was created to create fair and equal lending because of redlining and all these other things. And we're not that far out from segregation. My mom's generation was the generation that was being desegregated. There's still school districts that are being desegregated. There's still racism that I experience on a daily basis. All right, and honestly, I don't think that there was any malice or malintent that occurred when it came to this situation. I want y'all to let me know from what the information I just gave y'all and whatever else you've looked up and found. I don't think that it was anything particular that Navy Federal was doing, because we have to look at everything else that they've done up until this point, and and say that. So I don't know. I just want to know what y'all think about it. Y'all give me y'all opinion. Um, because I personally, like I said, I'm at this point, I'm gonna continue to have the accounts that I have with them, pay my accounts, keep them in good standing, and move on. My bank, or my mortgage isn't even through a bank. My mortgage is through a individual. So I don't know. I feel like we have to just put ourselves in better predicaments and better positions to get to where we want to be. And we can't let one thing hold us back, right? Like I said, if Navy Federal, if I go and apply for something and they deny me, I will not walk, but I I turn around and hop in my car, or I get on the next website and I'm going to the next bank, right? I'm not putting all of my eggs in the Navy Federal basket. And that's what I think is, you know, it's something that we got to look at as well. Um, just as well as, like I said, are these applicants actually more qualified? Yes or no? And do they appeal greater to the system? Yes or no? So y'all let me know what you think, and you know, we'll get back on this topic. I might make this a live stream topic and talk about it again because, you know, we need to look at this with all these banks. You know, they went on and CNN was like, oh, well, Bank of America has the lowest current racial gap. Blah, blah, blah. Remember when Bank of America was under fire for this a couple years ago, and then they had to swoop in and create a program so that Bank of America would lend to minorities. Y'all forgot about that, huh, CNN? Like, yeah, that's why, because they came under fire for it before. So now they're trying to cross their T's and dot their I's so that they don't pop back up on the same thing. It's not because they just want to lend to us all of a sudden. So look at that too. But hey, with that being said, you know, like I said, thank y'all for watching, and I'm gonna see y'all soon.